Tonight's Modern Men is powered by the Hero Initiative. Interested in becoming a hero? Go to heroinitiative.org to see how you can be a hero to comic creators in need. Also, don't forget to join us at Mainframe Comic Con April 25th and 26th. That's mainframecomiccon.com. All right, here we are. Modern Men episode 26 already. Man, we're blowing through these things. Episode 26. Wow. Andy, how you doing tonight? Oh my God, that beard. My 26? Goodness. Woo.
I'd say this beard is about 26 episodes in length.
Yeah, we're gonna get that beard to 27 inches, just an inch every single week. By week 45, it's gonna be like all the way across your torso. But Drew, how you doing down there? You've been killing it on the Monday stream, man, or the morning stream.
Oh man, I've been doing the daily show.
Yeah,
and I'm running out of shit to talk about. People throw some topics at me.
Yeah, Drew.
These guys are like, let's talk about topics for the show. I'm like, somebody throw me some topics for my show.
Yeah, you had a really good topic, top 5 video games based on comics. A lot of fun. I was actually supposed to do some work this morning, and then I started listening to your show and participating in the chat, and I'm like, well, so much for work today. So, yeah, great show, Drew. But before we get started here, we're going to cover the chat. Of course, Chris Barrett, always first, it seems like. Today is no exception. How you doing, Chris? Nice to see you in the chat. We got Scott Evans. What's going on, Scott? Nice to see you in the chat tonight. And Chaos and Comics immediately saying, Artgerm is not in the top 5. So, gotta love it. Actually, I don't think he's in my top 5. So, already with the Artgerm comments. Chad's best friend in the whole wide world, Stanley Artgerm Lau. He loves it. So.
He knows Stanley. They're tight.
So if you couldn't tell tonight, we're definitely talking about top 5 comic book cover artists. We're each going to count down our top 5. And, of course, go over some honorable mentions and all that good stuff. And we've got so much to plug tonight. We're going to talk about the next 3 or 4 weeks of Modern Men as well. So we got a whole schedule for the Modern Men brand, as well as letting you know what's going on with the Hero Initiative, too. So stay tuned for that. In between segments, we will teach you guys what's going on over at heroinitiative.org and how you might be able to talk to some of your favorite comic artists basically face-to-face through a Zoom chat. So stay tuned for that. There's a little rhyme for you, legend. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and hop right into our first segment of the night, and that's God Country. So God Country won the poll last week. It's the second time a Second Chance has came back and got around to winning the read. So in my opinion, this is definitely Donny Cates' breakout hit. And maybe for me, still his best work, in my opinion. I think it's a solid 6-issue run. I enjoy it from start to finish. It's an extremely easy read to get through, to say the least. And I mean that in the best way possible. So we'll get into some initial impressions here. So, Andy, is this your first time reading God Country, and what'd you think about it?
It is my first time reading God Country. And is this Donny Cates' like when they say it's a stunning debut on the cover, is this really his first work?
I don't think it's his first published work. I think it's his first image series, I believe.
Okay. And I hopefully am not the only one while reading this reads the narration in Sam Elliott's voice.
That's not a bad way to read it. You see, this was a sword. It was a sword of swords.
Drew, what about you? I know you read this a couple times before.
I read this as it came out. I also read it when it came out in trade. I got the trade, and I read it again. And I just read it again about an hour ago. All 6 issues in about an hour. Not a bad read. Reads real quick. Really awesome.
Yeah, for me, this is my second time reading through it. I actually got the random convention exclusive hardcover edition at C2E2 a couple years ago, so I don't see these around too much. But I only have the Image 25th Anniversary issue 1. That's the only single issue of this I own. I kind of missed out on it as it was coming out originally for whatever reason. I'm not sure. But probably because I didn't hear Donny Cates at the time. But I think this is absolutely a phenomenal tale, as I've said already. It's just a cool, older father and son dynamic going on. You have the crazy stuff going on with space gods and just this random sword he finds, like a god sword. It's kind of like almost finding Mjolnir if this was the Marvel universe, obviously. So what'd you think of our main character here, Andy? Finding a sword and, getting his memories flooded back of his dead wife and finding out he has a granddaughter for the first time.
It's kind of tough. Because it really brings you into the reality of somebody who's battling Alzheimer's a bit. And that's the scary reality, the fights, the arguments, the almost physical confrontations to I found your dad down on by the side of the road and wandered all the way out to the tracks or whatever. That's the reality of that situation for families who are coping with that disease. So that first book was like, wow, yeah, that's pretty realistic. That's pretty tough. And then that first panel that we have uploaded where that tornado comes in and that sword lands at the house and he's back to himself. And that panel is like, when the hell did I get this old? That was, I don't know, the art captures it very, very well. The look on his face with content, like he's at peace. When he realizes, oh, I got old, but I'm back. I'm here. I'm thinking. And then when he realized, this is my favorite part of the whole book. He's like, did you say grandpa? And the little girl goes running. I was like, wow, I like the character a lot. I almost wish there was more of this to read to see further development beyond that last issue, because this just felt like it had a lot longer legs hiding in there, ready to go.
What about you, Drew?
This book is important for a number of reasons. I think most importantly, it's important because of the father-son connection here, and the importance of family and legacy that is stressed throughout all 6 issues. And is seen from both sides, from the sides of giant space gods and the side of, a man who's just trying to hold his family together. He's got a dad with autism, or I'm sorry, not Alzheimer's, not autism. He's trying to raise a daughter. At the same time, he's got a wife who is not a partner in this situation. She's very bitter for the situation going on with his father and doesn't grasp his father's behavior, doesn't grasp her husband's behavior, the loss of his mother and the loss of his father's sanity at the same time. And then you have Emmett Quinlan himself, who is this vessel for this magical sword. And it gives him his memories back. And one of the most poignant parts of the book is when he says to the god of war, who comes down first to chat and then comes back to fight later. But when they're just chatting, he says to him, look, man, these are my memories, and they're not all good memories. He's like, I woke up today and had to fight with losing my wife all over again. This isn't exactly a happy thing, but it's mine, and I want to hold on to it. It's my legacy. It's my life. These are my memories. And it's the story of 2 patriarchs who refuse to let go. The god of gods, king of kings, whatever his name was, Atmos or whatever, he wants to hold on to his sword. He wants to hold on to his last shred of dignity and power as his world crumbles around him. And Emmett is given the opportunity to get one last chance to see his power, to see his glory, to see his legacy. And he doesn't want to let go of that either. So it's this mirror of the 2 sides of legacy, the beauty of it, and also the damaging effects of trying to hold on to it. I thought it was really well played out. Thought that Jeff Shaw kills this book with his Kirby-esque figures, with his Kirby crackle that he puts into these cosmic battles that are happening on a plane that may be Texas, that may be, hell, and maybe this city in the sky that is circling a black hole. It doesn't matter. There's a level of gravitas to each of these battles that's just there's size and scope to them. And I think that the art is killer, along with a story that really, really touches a lot of personal notes.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that. I think this was an extremely personal story for Donny Cates. He even starts it off, says it's for his dad. So that kind of tells me that, he's gone through a lot of what the Quinlan family is going through right out the gate. I mean, issue one kind of starts off the police are at his father's house and they're trying to haul him away because he's just being a disruptive person in general. He doesn't know what's going on. He's screaming for his wife who has been dead for years. And it starts off at a very sad state. So obviously, if you're a son or it's your dad, you're kind of hoping like, man, it'd be cool if something just like happened to where he just all of a sudden became himself again and all that stuff. And that actually does happen here. Later, his son reveals that, he feels kind of responsible for this sword appearing just because he hoped and prayed for it. And somehow it actually happened. Whether that was the direct cause of it, never really answered. Probably isn't, but nonetheless, his son still feels responsible for him, even though he's not doing too bad. So, what did you guys think about the son character? For me, he kind of goes either way. Where I kind of like him, but at the same time, he's definitely looking out more for his daughter and his wife. Obviously, like I think about anyone would, but. There are times it seemed like he was kind of annoyed with his father. What did you guys think?
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. I think they hit the nail on the head, so to speak, with that character because he's torn. I mean, he's torn between his wife and his daughter, and he's torn between his dad. He's torn between wanting to do the right thing, but also wanting to do what his dad would wish of him. I see that in that battling back and forth to the point where you almost become neutral. Like you sit in a neutral state, just spinning your gears, wondering how to handle this or how to handle that. I think they did really well with that character.
Yeah, I think that he's very human. He has his moments where he is tied to his past, his father, his mother, their home, and then he's torn because he wants to take care of the future, his wife, his daughter, moving on. He doesn't want to put his father in a home because he knows that his father's a good man. But then when his father comes back and has all of his faculties back, he sees him playing with his daughter, and he laments to his wife at that point, yeah, like, this is great to see, right? You're seeing something great, but he was never like that with me.
Mm.
He wasn't that guy. And they even sit down, crack a beer on the porch, start to have a heart-to-heart, and Emmett says to him, your mother hugs you too much.
Oh, yeah.
But,
you could tell they've got that pure 1980s dad was an asshole and the son like took it growing up.
Yeah, and he loves his father, but they have a complicated relationship, and something as simple as the sword giving him his faculties back doesn't fix everything. And I think that this book does a good job of saying, like, hey, yeah, this is an adventure, but these are imperfect people in an imperfect situation. And, we get the fun and the sword fights and the battles and all the adventure. But at the end of the day, these are still human characters with human characteristics. I thought that was handled really, really well.
Yeah, and definitely like the other big conflict is the fact that, obviously he has sort of gives him his memories, but I'm guessing this whole family still would rather just have him get rid of the sword because it brings danger their direction no matter what at this point. Throughout the 6 issues, about every second he has this sword, there's always that threat looming out there from these gods that want their god sword back. So my next question for you guys was kind of actually going to be about, the space gods and all of that. What did you think about Cates and Shaw, the way they built these space gods up? Do you wish there was a little bit more from that? Or were you kind of happy it was kind of just like a father and 2 siblings going after the sword, basically?
It had very much Thor, Loki, and Odin vibes to it. It makes me very happy that Cates is working on Thor currently, because this shows that he has a handle on those kind of stories. And you got a little bit of the society in there as they unveiled what was going on with these gods and how they lived. And everybody looks like a damn celestial. So like everybody's got those Kirby type armor pieces. I like the way that they kind of fleshed that out, but I also dig the way that they made Valifax like his own god. Like It's the god of gods forged a sword, so it became the god of swords. I don't know. I thought I really dug it. I really dig the juxtaposition of these gods who come and are super proper, and the Quinlans who are just West Texas rednecks, to be honest. And it brings me to one of my favorite panels in the book. The first time the god of war comes, he says, blah, 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 blah. Emmett says, how about you go ahead and get the fuck off my property? Before the sword tells the god of war to kneel. Emmett doesn't tell him to kneel. The sword does. Mm-hmm. But this god of gods, this god of war comes down, and he's got nothing but respect for Emmett because the sword has chosen him. And Emmett's just like not having it. He's like, who are you? What are you doing here? Never mind. Just go.
And yeah, even the sword for a minute is just like, Emmett, you got to be professional. Come on. So I kind of like my favorite parts with Emmett and the sword are sometimes when the sword's disagreeing with him.
Right.
But also, I think my kind of favorite, we can kind of go into our favorite action scenes as well. But I think this one was probably my favorite just because you kind of see the scope of what can happen. And there's like a whole undead army that all of a sudden just arrives on their front porch as they're having a beer. And he uses the sword to like more or less flip on the light of the undead army, and they can't even see it without the sword. So pretty cool and creepy element they introduced there. And the other cool part, I don't know if we have a panel of it or not. I like it when the sword actually takes control of like their like knife block in their house, and it controls like every
all those blades
to help protect the family as well.
Like
so
pins the door shut.
Yeah.
What about you, Andy? Did you have a favorite part?
Well, I think they did the best that they could with the gods in the amount of time they had without making it a long ongoing series or adding another set of issues. My favorite part is where Emmett goes to hell. Wait. Is it
to
Emmett?
Find his granddaughter?
Yeah, it's Emmett. Yeah, he goes to hell
where
to find
he just immediately storms right off and goes to hell to find his granddaughter. And that panel of him getting to hell, I didn't upload. Wish I did. That one was really there. It is. Yeah,
there you go. You did
that right there. I was like, wow, that it just took me there. Like that's a very interesting take on like the underlayer of Texas, like hell, the first layer of hell right underneath Texas, and that looked really good.
Nice. So yeah, let's go over the rest of these panels because we have a lot you guys picked from here. Of course, we had this one earlier with like the initial conflict between the god and the god sword. That they talk about how you could feel like all of Texas shake when this whole battle was happening, and you know, it was the stuff of legends because you kind of don't realize until the very last issue that this is a story being told generations later down the line. Which I thought that was a very nice touch, and of course, the end to issue 1 where you know the gods they're trying to find the sword. Then there's him arriving in Texas. And then I think that
was really panel heavy. I mean, this had a ton of great panels to choose from. I got to the point where I was pulling these panels. Where do I stop? I mean, I think I put 12 of them up.
Yeah, here's where that undead army first invades. And I'm surprised there wasn't like more repercussions from this scene. It seems like he gets bit. And then, like, you don't, like, even in the below panel there, you don't see, like, any more battle damage. He never shows any battle damage again after this. So, to be, like, almost have his shoulder completely bitten off, that's my, like, one tiny pet peeve, I guess. But, yeah, there's the part where he goes to hell. And, oh, yeah, we didn't talk about this part. This is where he gets to meet his wife, or he thinks he does, but it's just a projection of her to trick him into giving the sword away. And yeah, it's a very emotional scene where you finally get to see him be able to kind of talk to his wife for the first time. But unfortunately, like you said, Loki was the perfect comparison because it was a Loki style trick that was pulled on him. And of course, there's where he goes to the final showdown planet to meet off with the God of Kings. And then this panel
this is where the waterworks come in.
Yes.
Like I honestly, I just read this before the show and I teared up reading this after after Emmett uses the sword to defeat the big bad god of gods.
Yes.
He's laying there dying, and upon touching the sword, taking it from his hands, his son has transferred all of his memories, and he gets to impart his legacy, the good and the bad, on his son through Valifax, which was a really, really cool bit of business they did here to kind of, imprint upon his son everything that Emmett was carrying with him that he couldn't say through the last years of his life. Really important character moments here. I really dug it.
Absolutely. And in the last panel, spoilers, I guess, but you all should have read it anyway by now, of course. It's where Emmett falls in battle. I kind of like this just because, Emmett's the type of guy, he would have rather went down in this battle than give up the sword and go back to being bedridden and not knowing any of these memories, obviously. So he wanted to go down like a man, basically, or what his interpretation of a man is. But yeah, going back to this panel for sure. I mean, yeah, this is definitely where, someone may shed a tear, that's for sure. When, all these memories that risk being forgotten again, he gets to give that gift to his son. So, Andy, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that panel is just like it turns on the waterworks. And Emmett is a great representation of a lot of father figures over the last 23 years. Those work boots, those pants, the belt, the tucked in button down shirt with the belly and the gray hair. I happen to see my own father in this book a fair bit while reading it. So getting to that last panel was pretty tough.
I had a couple more panels I added on top of that. The God of War does come back to battle Emmett, and he brings a hammer with him.
Yeah.
And that battle doesn't end well for the God of War because, as you see here, we're dual wielding.
Yes, that's
Emmett comes back to whoop that ass. And then kind of the final panel for this story for me was that his son then takes Valifax after Emmett falls, and he teleports back. Oh, that's not it. He drops Valifax, and that's the last they ever saw the sword. So it basically says, they never saw the sword. It's kind of a waste, but this story wasn't about swords anyway. And it's so poignant because it wasn't about swords. It was about the family. It was about legacy. It was about all the things you fight for. And the sword was just this thorn in the side of this family that also gave their patriarch the ability to once again relive his glory.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool. I dug it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really a story about a man not wanting to let go. Like I was saying, that really brought me home with my father, not wanting to let go of his dreams, his life, what he wanted to pass on until he was ready.
So my final question before we go into our, final thoughts and scores, with like every big popular anything nowadays, whether it be comic books, movies, there has to be some sort of follow-up or sequel. It seems like no matter what. God Country ran for 6 issues. Very solid read for 6 issues. Are you happy it ended at issue 6 and we're good there? Or do you want to eventually see a follow-up or a sequel?
This has no need for a sequel. It's a self-contained 6-issue story, and it perfectly conveys what it wants to convey. I think if you go back to the well with God Country, you tell another story of Valifax, it then becomes a story about the sword.
Mm.
And this was not a story about the sword. The sword was great. The action was fantastic. The gods from space were cool, but it wasn't a story about those things. Those were the trappings that made this story exciting. It was a story about family. It was a story about legacy. And at the end of the day, that story is about the Quinlans, and the Quinlan story is over. And there's no really any place to go with this. I think that it's good where it ended.
Yep. Andy?
Yeah. Drew hit the nail on the head when the story, the Quinlan's story ended there. The selfish child in me does want more, but the reality of it is the way it's written, it's sitting fine right where it's at.
What is this guy smoking?
Yeah, good old great Legends in the chat tonight. How you doing, Legend? I guess to answer that question myself, like, yeah, I completely agree. 6 issues. It's a one and done trade / hardcover. I wouldn't want. I think it's a nice bow on top at the very end. If they had to make a sequel, number one, I don't think it could be called even God Country because obviously Quinlan's are from Texas and all that good stuff. I guess that's kind of God's country to some of the people down there, according to what I've heard. I don't know if it's more or less like the gods coming to the country, but anyway, I think if they had to make a sequel, like you said, it almost have to be about the sword at that point. Or the sword traveling and finding someone else to help, basically. It almost kind of be like Heavy Metal, where it just travels from person to person, and the main story is about that person. The sword just happens to be there, but it definitely would not be as strong as this. It would just feel forced, in my opinion. But, yeah, all right. In that case, let's go to the final scores. So we'll start with you, Drew. What do you give God Country?
9.6.
Woo!
Few small spine ticks, but beyond that, it's pretty perfect condition. Near mint.
Nice. Andy?
I'm going with a 9.4.
Yeah, both solid grades. I think for me, it's going to have to be a solid 9.2. I think I enjoyed it a lot. Art was great. Like I said, I had a nitpick or two, but nothing too crazy. But I'm calling this a solid 9.2, and I highly recommend. I think it's still Donny Cates' best work. I know it's his breakout work, but the only thing for me, Cates-wise, his Venom's great. But I think Thanos Wins might be a close second for me. But yeah, this is definitive Cates in my opinion.
Chaos in Comics says he heard Donnie say he's going to work with Shaw again. He already did. He worked with Shaw on Thanos Wins, and he also worked with Shaw on what was it, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Shaw did that as well. So both great runs you should check out.
Awesome. All right, so before we go into our next segment, we're going to go into this chat because it's been too long since we said hi to these people. We got Superior Hero Reviews. What's going on, Superior? Nice to see you in the chat. We got the Great Legend Show. When he comes to Texas, he's talking about those Von Erichs. So, yeah, Fritz Von Erich. We all love the Von Erichs. WCCW. Legend knows what it's all about. We got Backseat Driver in the chat. He says, I think it should end where it did. So he pretty much agrees with us. Scott Evans says, I'm glad this was our read. It was great. It was not what I was expecting at all. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. The very first time I read it, I had no idea what this book was going to be. I just heard it was good, and I decided to read it. That was it. So I went in completely blind, and I think, anyone could do that, and it's a very solid read for sure. We got Chaos and Comics still in the chat. What is going on, Chaos and Comics? William Bird says, I'm lucky that when my mom went through the stages of the disease, she didn't do the anger thing. Her mind went to a good place, and her was almost always in good humor. So that sucks to hear, William Bird, but at least, yeah, she didn't go through that anger phase. That totally sucks. We got Phil Ailing in the chat. What is going on, Phil? How you doing? We got Count Von Strange the Fourth is in the chat tonight. We got Jaden Reindl. How you doing, Jaden? Welcome to the stream, sir. And then let's see if anyone else. Oh, yeah, we had Los. What is going on, Los S? How you doing tonight? And then Scott Evans says he gives it a 9.4 to a 9.6. Backseat Driver, 9.6 for him. Barrett says at least a 9.4.
We know this thing's near mint regardless of the
absolutely
point number.
All right. So I wanted to take some time here before we go into our main topic of the night and talk about what's going on over on the Hero Initiative's website. So if you guys go, and I put the link down below, if you guys go to heroinitiative.org/merchandise, you actually can have the opportunity to meet with a creator almost face-to-face in basically groups of 4 or 5. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the share screen here, and we're going to look at this website together. So if you guys go to this for a charitable donation, which is posted below the creator's name, you can actually, for instance, if you want to have a Q&A with writer Dan DiDio and former executive for DC Comics, all you have to do right now is click on Dan DiDio's name there, and there's only one left in stock. So if you guys want to get in on a 30-minute Q&A with Dan DiDio, you can donate $100 to the Hero Initiative and get in on this Q&A that happens on April 22nd. So pretty good opportunity if someone really wanted to chat with half an hour of Dan DiDio. There's definitely some other people on here as well. Jeff Lemire. Who doesn't want to talk to Jeff Lemire? That guy has such a deep roster of great books under him right now. Fabian Nicieza, definitely another classic from the 90s, of course. Brian Michael Bendis is on here. Oh, he just ran out of stock during the show, actually. So,
oh, wow.
Definitely got to keep an eye out for more people. You can chat and a sketch with Megan Hutchinson, and Donny Cates is there as well. There's only 2 of those left in stock, so very limited seats remain on that one. Let's see if Todd Knock's still in stock. He just ran out of stock as well. This would have been my top pick if it was available, because you actually get a sketch as well as a half-hour Q&A with them. Let's see if there's anybody else that offers the sketch.
This has only been up for a day, hasn't it?
I think it's only been up a day. There's supposed to be another round. So I definitely recommend putting this in your favorites. Keep following.
Zdarsky's one of the first one on the schedules. Check out how many spots are left for Zdarsky.
He's officially sold out.
Oh, all right.
Keep an eye on him, though. $69 donation to the Hero Initiative. You can talk to Chip Zdarsky for half an hour. The one that's on here now, I would recommend Tim Seeley. Still in stock, but you also get a sketch with this one. So I have several Tim Seeley sketches. He does phenomenal work, and he's worth every bit of your time. So 30 minutes on 420, $150. This is my top one. I would probably recommend if I was going to do this. So yeah, definitely $150 for a Tim Seeley meet and greet plus a sketch for sure. But yeah, definitely follow this website very closely. I think Chaikin sold out as well. Tom King still has a couple seats left, but they're going to keep adding people to this. So if there's a favorite creator you want to have a talk with or something like that, definitely keep following this website, and you may have that opportunity for a Hero Initiative donation. So the link is down below if you guys are interested in that as well. So Andy, what do you think about that? I know there's some people on there you like.
Oh, dude, that's pretty slick, man. Can you imagine getting that time with Jeff Lemire and be able to talk to him about, Gideon Falls and a lot of the other stuff he's working on? And then Chip Zdarsky, $69. Did he set that price?
Yeah, I bet he did. That guy's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
I love it.
So yeah, definitely check out heroinitiative.org. A lot of big things happening over there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our main topic of the night. And that's top 5 cover artists, the modern era. So, I think we've covered top artists several times, and we've delved in a little bit about our top writers. I don't think we've done a detailed list on top writers, which we'll probably do very soon. But I think it was Drew or Andy today. It's like, we haven't done cover artists yet. So I figured, why not talk cover artists? Because everyone at the end of the day, I think we would agree the main selling point for a book, first thing that's going to catch your eye from a mile away, is the cover of a comic. So obviously most of these companies now, the cover artist is one of the most important things going on. So without further ado, I'll just hop into my number 5 here. And I tried not to overthink this list too much. Pretty much once I had my 5, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm done. I'm just going to cut it off there. But I kind of tried to pick a list of people, like if these people did a cover, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to buy the cover. So the first one I picked was Amanda Conner. So as much as I love her interior art, I do really enjoy her covers as well, especially that whole spread she did for Harley Quinn previously on Justice Society of America and Power Girl. Yeah, she has some beautiful covers. I actually have one of her prints right here on my wall of Harley Quinn surrounded by a bunch of animals with blood on their breath. and if you ever meet her, she's a wonderful person to talk to. So you guys like Amanda Conner?
She's on my list, Seawood.
Oh, I haven't even read your list yet. Awesome.
Don't worry.
She may have been on one of the 20 revisions of this list that I did today because this was agonizing.
We'll talk about her much later when we
Yes.
get to the bottom of my list.
I'll go ahead and click on Andy's number 5 because he has a pretty good pick, in my opinion. Joe Quesada. So, Andy, take it away.
I feel like Joe Quesada doesn't get talked enough about comic book covers and his art. I don't really know what to say more than that. One of the covers that I fell in love with, and still, this is my most read series of books ever. And this cover, Punisher Final Days, I think it's 56. The one where Frank Castle's escaping Rikers Island, and he's all bandaged up after Jigsaw ripped his face up and tortured him to make him look like Jigsaw. That cover, that's an iconic Punisher cover, in my opinion. And Quesada did that. And I think Palmiotti is also gets co-credit on that cover. Both of their names are on there. But there's just not enough people that really talk about his artwork. And when you go and look at his Pinterest, it's stunning. He's been doing a lot of really cool newer stuff that I don't hear anybody talking about.
Yeah, my only nitpick with Quesada is like when they do a cover over at Marvel, it seems like it's always like a 1 in 50 variant or something like that. I just wish they'd throw him on the A covers because I like his work so much.
Yeah, I did notice that digging through a lot of his stuff, and it's like it was all incentive covers, and I was why I didn't see him on any A covers.
All right,
let's incentive to cover money.
You picked Yasmin Putri as your number 5, Drew.
I did. I just absolutely love Yasmin's work. I think that it's really soft and delicate and highly detailed at the same time. It's got that kind of painted style without being an Artgerm digital masterpiece, or that too strokey. Sometimes when you see those painted covers, are really overworked. I feel like Putri's covers are just really perfect. Notably, the last cover that I picked up of hers was this Robin 80th anniversary cover.
Oh, nice.
I just love the line work. It's just, everything's really well proportioned, and she's some really interesting positions that she's got these Robins in here. And that's just, and the composition of the whole thing against that white background, that's par for the course with her. She does great work. If I see a Putri cover, I'll normally pick it up.
Awesome. But for my number 4, Drew, I picked one of your favorites, George Perez. Man, this guy. Anytime he does a cover now, and it's like cover price, I'm picking it up every time. I just remember his covers on JLA Avengers, especially that issue 3 where he his mission. He's like, I want to try to draw every character that's ever been a part of both teams. And he actually did. He gave himself tendonitis, but he did it. And it's one of my favorite covers he's ever done. And then the Infinite Crisis covers too. When those came out, everyone picked up the Jim Lee stuff. I want to make sure I picked up the George Perez stuff. So every time I see a George Perez cover, like I said, he almost has the Quesada problem anymore, where if a company decides to sell a book with a George Perez cover, it's almost always like a 1 in 20 incentive or a 1 in 25 or something like that. It kind of drives me crazy, but I've always been a sucker for George Perez, as you guys know. So every time he does a cover, I'm probably going to end up getting it. But let's go to Andy's number 4.
Never heard of him.
Andy's number 4, Todd McFarlane.
I mean, how do you have a list without him on it as far as cover artists go? Whether it's his Amazing Spider-Man stuff, some of the Hulk stuff he's done, the stuff that he did with Image and Spawn. There's just the prolificness of his work is so out there. I felt bad putting him at 4, but then again, when I looked at it, there was a lot of the other artists I was really in love with their work. Todd's work I do enjoy, but I don't feel like any of his covers that I'm truly in love with. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Todd McFarlane, when I was growing up, seeing those Spawns on the shelves, those are almost like must-buy just based on his covers alone.
Yep.
And not to mention his Spider-Man stuff, of course. You see Todd McFarlane, you see Spider-Man, you're probably going to end up buying it.
But yeah, and that Hulk 344, I think is that correct?
340, the claws, the Wolverine versus Hulk.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's an iconic cover. Drew, for your number 4, you picked Mike Del Mundo.
I love Del Mundo and his style. It's so abstract. It's got this surrealness to it. It's colors that shouldn't go together that come together to make a beautiful whole. I'm not super in love with his interiors, but I think that his covers are just really great. Check out the Weird World covers that he did. That series was less than perfect, but the covers were absolutely phenomenal. His covers for the last series of Thor before Donny Cates' run, just really killer stuff. And he did the Black Widow countdown cover, Countdown to Infinity.
Yeah,
that was a phenomenal cover. Man, I see a Mike Del Mundo variant. I'm gonna pick it up.
Awesome. Yeah, before we go into our number 3 picks, I want to get into the chat. We got Downright Nerdy Podcast. How you doing, DNP? Nice to see you on the show or in the chat. I know he's always supporting the show on Instagram, so absolutely happy to see Downright Nerdy Podcast in the chat. We also still have Backseat Driver in the chat. He had a cool show with JP's Budget Collecting and Kavi earlier, where they talked about Curse of the White Knight. So that was an awesome show. We got my friend Michael Von Green is in the chat. What is going on, Mike? We actually just recorded the first episode of our upcoming podcast today called Comics of the Atom. We're going to talk about Astonishing X-Men. So stay tuned to my channel for more on that. But yeah, recorded that podcast a couple hours ago. So hopefully
I'll listen to anything X-Men related.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Give me the link to that thing.
Oh, absolutely, I will. We still got William Bird hanging out in the chat, and I think Chris Barrett has put his top 5 in the chat, so we'll be nice and count them down because I want to see other people's picks as well. So he put Russell Dotterman, definitely a good one there from his Thor run.
Good choice.
John Romita Jr.
Yep. JR, he's always great.
Oh, Adam Hughes, that's a solid pick right there.
He drew that one cover, and he's been repeating it over and over and over again.
Yeah, the one with the thing, yeah.
That one with that lady in the boobs.
Thingy. J. Scott Campbell.
That's another one that drew that one cover with the lady in the boobs and keeps putting it out over and over again.
And there you go.
I like Phil
Noto.
Noto.
I like you some Phil Noto. I
love Phil Noto. He didn't make my list because I forgot about him, but he might have made my list.
Then Phil Ailing loves him some Azrael. Who doesn't? So getting back into the countdown here. So as I pull up the right banner, there we go. I had to pick Mike Turner as my number 3. I almost picked him as my number 1, to be honest. I feel like his covers, especially the way they're distributed through Aspen and the con scene in the 2000s, I feel like his art was kind of the reason we're at now in terms of variant covers. Because when you put his art on a cover in the 2000s, it sold extremely well, whether it was Identity Crisis. Like I said, any of those Aspen comic or convention exclusives, those things, there was lines around the block every time I went to like a Wizard Con and they had a Turner exclusive. That was one of the biggest selling points for that con, is to get the Turner exclusive. So I feel like not only, I don't know why I didn't put him at number 1, to be honest, but I probably should have. But I feel like because of Michael Turner and his contribution to the medium, we're kind of where we're at now with variant covers. Whether you like that or not, I think Mike Turner has a lot to do with that.
Lots of teenage boys bought his covers.
Drew, do you like Mike Turner?
He's hit or miss for me. Like sometimes I'll see things that he does. I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty pedestrian. But then I shared one last Tuesday. I did Top Variant Tuesday as my daily show shout out for the Instagram. And somebody had a cover of his that was just it's like a negative space variant of Fathom. Ooh. Where it was I like her hair, the shine on her hair blended into what ended up being like the bra top. And it was just this really, really badass cover. So sometimes you see a Mike Turner and it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing how great it is. Other times it's like, okay, that was a sketch he had laying around and they slapped that on a cover and they charged way too much money for it. But it's with as much terrible Michael Turner covers are out there, there's 14,000 times as many great Michael Turner covers. So it's just he's not a creator that I collect.
Sure,
I don't go out of my way for them, but yeah, I see it. I get it.
Yeah, I do want to shout out Chad R, who's in the chat. Before we keep going, I want to get to his pick. He requested I put this on here for him. Artgerm, Chad's favorite artist. I know it's his best friend in the whole wide world.
His best friend Stanley.
Artgerm Lau. So Chad's number 1 pick, Artgerm for sure. So we'll get back into Andy's list now. Andy, you're number 3. I see a lot of them behind you. Fiona Staples.
I struggled with this. I sat here for at least half an hour trying to figure out if I should leave her at 3 or what. One of the most decorated artists that I know about in modern comic books, and her cover art is stunning throughout Saga, throughout some of the other stuff that she's done. Just find her on Instagram, find her online, and follow her stuff. It is phenomenal.
Drew, you like Fiona Staples?
I do like Fiona Staples. Some of my favorite Fiona Staples work is not actually Saga. She did great work on the first Archie relaunch. She worked with Mark Waid on that before Veronica Fish took over. Veronica Fish did a great job, but those Fiona Staples covers and issues were just phenomenal. She does a great job with kind of everyday mundane situations, regular people. And most of the Saga covers, they're regular people who just happen to have wings or horns, So she does a great job with kind of the mundane, making it look absolutely beautiful. I dig Fiona Staples.
You know who else Drew digs? Julian Tudesco. Not sure if that's how you spell Tudesco, Drew, but I'll go with it.
I don't fucking know. Do you fucking know how to spell it?
Tudesco.
Google that. I was gonna Google it, but I was just typing it in before this show.
Anyway, Tudesco. What do you think about Julian Tudesco, Drew?
Man, I think it's beautiful. You see that Marvel Comics 1000 She-Hulk cover? You guys been buying this Daredevil run? You don't like Tudesco? Yep. Go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Yes, I did.
Salty.
Look, I don't know how to spell.
Andy, do you have any thoughts on Julian Totino Tudesco?
No, Drew is right, man. That Daredevil run, agreed.
Nice. I did meet him like last year, I think. Did
you ask him how to spell his name when you met him, Seawood? Because that would have been pertinent information.
Yeah. You didn't ask me. If you put them in the chat earlier in the day, I would have put them in the spelled right.
Man, I was too busy running a show.
Good call. But finally, number 2, I put J. Scott Campbell. I've always been a sucker for J. Scott Campbell.
Really?
Yeah. I said I could flip Mike Turner and him back and forth. But since I was probably 10 years old, collecting Gen 13, he's always been one of my guilty pleasure artists. Whether it's him drawing Phoenix on a blank white cover, or there's a lot of detail in it.
When a girl's on the cover with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, it's J. Scott.
Fairchild, man, one of the best. But yeah, I've always just loved J. Scott Campbell. I think his colors pop perfectly. He's one of the few artists I'd probably actually go to his website and wait for his variant releases and maybe buy one or two of his books. Don't do that too often for a lot of artists, but J. Scott is one of the few artists I would consider doing that for.
I want to bet there's a correlation between J. Scott Campbell comic book covers and the fashion industry in the late 90s.
The ripped up jeans.
Well, that and the skin tight swimsuits and all that other stuff.
I just think when I see a J. Scott Campbell picture, I think to myself, she must not eat because the food would have no place to rest.
Burger, please.
We'll go to Andy's number 2 here. You picked Michael Golden.
Here we go. You guys want to go down a rabbit hole with me? We're going to go down a rabbit hole with me. Michael Golden has some of my all-time favorite Punisher covers ever. And I've got a giant stack of slabs here, but he did that Suicide run for Punisher Volume 2 that I love collecting. And that carries over from Punisher Volume 2 into War Journal to Warzone. Some of them were kind of gimmicky, but my all-time favorite Michael Golden cover, all-time favorite one, 1995, he put this out. That is probably the top premier Punisher cover, in my opinion, that I absolutely adore. I waited years and years to buy this book because the scarce low print run and finding it in that grade was pretty difficult. That's why I put him at my number 2. He did a lot of other work though, but his infrequent run, bits and pieces here in the Punisher, every cover I grab, I realized that as a kid growing up, it was Michael Golden drawing me to those Punisher covers. It really was.
Yeah, Michael Golden, he's one of the all-time classics. You definitely can't go wrong with that pick. Drew, you like you some Golden, right?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay, let's get back to Amanda Conner then, Drew. You'll talk about Amanda Conner.
I think Amanda Conner is probably one of the most perfect cartoonists. She has the ability to draw heroes with a sense of masculinity and imposing power to them. She also has the ability to draw ladies with acuteness as well as a dash of sex appeal in the tradition of Betty Boop. You wouldn't think that would mix well with comic book properties, but it really does in a way that you just, they look like the superheroes if they were messing around in the Looney Tunes universe, but that's not a drawback. She has this cartoon ability that just transcends normal comic book art, in my opinion. I love what she did on the Captain Marvel covers in this last run. We've gotten some great Mark Brooks covers and connecting variants and whatnot after she's been done, but I miss those Amanda Connor covers. The covers she was doing for Supergirl were phenomenal. Every single cover had Crypto the Superdog and Supergirl, whether they were sharing a milkshake and an alien space bar, or they were, flying amongst the stars or saving the day or just cuddling up for a selfie. She's got the ability to make Harley Quinn interesting. Nobody else has figured that one out yet, except for the TV show. Man, I'll buy an Amanda Connor cover if I see one.
Nice. All right, before we go into our number ones, I think we got to talk some honorable mentions that somehow that just didn't make our list or anything like that. The first one that kind of came to mind, Andy was talking about Punisher. I'm like, well, what about Tim Bradstreet?
Oh, yeah.
Punisher Max covers. So yep. I think that was one we hadn't mentioned. Clayton Crane.
Clayton Crane, definitely.
Yeah, he just
Assad Ribic.
Yeah, Assad Ribic. Those Fantastic Four covers.
Alex Ross.
Maybe more on him in a minute. We'll see. Josh Middleton. We didn't even talk about Middleton.
No, we didn't talk about Artgerm's little brother, Joshua Middleton.
Oh, boy. Little brother. Oh, you think about Derek Chu? I think that actually
Derek Chu is their cousin.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Here's one for you, Drew, that's honorable mention. Your pal Marco Cacchetto.
Yeah. Cacchetto. Hey.
I set you up there.
Gonna eat some spaghetti, yeah. Is that racist? I'm sorry.
Pretty much, yes. Wow. Andy, any honorable mentions? I know you said you struggled with this list. Who'd you leave off?
Mike Zeck. His
yeah.
Klaus Johnson too.
Oh yeah.
Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
I left Jack Kirby off the list.
Jack, he's making a comeback apparently.
Yes.
I'm just looking around. Jason Fabok.
That's a good one.
Covers. Gary Frank.
Gary Frank is one. What's his name? The freaking Batman guy. It's gonna drive me nuts. It's gonna drive me nuts now.
See. Now you guys know where I'm
overthinking
in this list.
I have
20 different lists.
I forgot a certain guy named Brian Boland.
Brian Boland, that's one.
Top 5. But he did most of his best work in the 80s, so I'll forgive it. Barrett says Adi Granov.
Adi Granov does great covers. Phil Noto, he didn't make my list, but one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and get into our number ones then. I had to go Alex Ross. Absolutely. I think his art and the way he paints, especially those main DC heroes, it's a cut above anything else, in my opinion. He made Justice Society of America like a book you want to pick up just based on the covers alone. And luckily I had a good storyline with Jeff Johns on the inside. Wow, a lot of people are mentioning Capullo in the chat, by the way, so I had to mention that because I saw it pop up multiple times. But
I like Capullo's interiors better than his covers, to be honest.
I'd agree. So what do you guys think, Alex Ross?
I think it's a good pick for number one.
I think it's a great pick for a cover artist, considering his interiors always leave a little bit to be desired, in my opinion. But as a cover artist, you couldn't ask anything more from Alex Ross. He does great paintings. I think that Alex Ross, when he does the covers for like a run of books, though, kind of gets lost and a little muddied. His run on the Amazing Spider-Man covers that he did for, what is it, like 40 issues? They just weren't the best at a certain point. It's just like when you get an Alex Ross cover every 3 weeks, it's kind of like it loses its luster a bit. But he's done great stuff for decades now. That is just phenomenal. Those covers of Justice, that Justice series, fantastic covers.
And Star Wars covers too.
Yeah.
Those were awesome. Andy?
I agree.
All right. Speaking of Andy, we're going to go to your number one, which he almost made my list. He really did, but I kind of like his interiors a bit better. Jim Lee.
You caught me off guard because I was thinking about my number one here. I mean, I don't know if it's because I spent so much time growing up in Jim Lee's era, if you will. He started out Alpha Flight 51, his first pencils, and moved into covers with Marvel, and his first covers were with Punisher stuff. Punisher Armory. I've got a Punisher Armory sitting right here, number one. I've got a Punisher Armory signed by Jim Lee in 9/8 back there. I've got another Punisher Armory right over my shoulder behind me, and I've got 3 more in the box. That's one of my favorite Jim Lee covers of Punisher, and he captures that dark, gritty, crazy Punisher vibe that I didn't feel like I saw that level of darkness from Jim Lee again until he started doing Batman stuff. But following him through into leaving and going to Image, and then what did he start? Wildstorm, and then sold Wildstorm to DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like growing up in the Jim Lee age and watching him mature and change as an artist all these years. I just want him to go back to doing cover art, like really good, gritty, detailed cover art, because he's my number one cover artist. Honestly,
yeah, that's a solid pick.
Ask me again in a year, and it'd probably still be the same.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those artists for me. Like anytime I'm going through like a 50 cent or $1, but I see a Jim Lee cover, I have to stop and see if I have it. Basically, it's just one of those things. Like you see it, you buy it, basically, and that's kind of like the main objective for a cover at the end of the day. It's got to sell you. And anytime you see Jim Lee on your comic cover, you're probably going to bite on it, especially if like you collected in the 90s, especially. Like even those Wildcats covers are like worth a quarter piece. You want to collect that whole run because not only do you get that sweet cover, you get his art on the inside too. So, Drew, Jim Lee.
Yeah, what hasn't been said about Jim Lee? He's great. He's very detail oriented. We don't get enough Jim Lee these days.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I'd like to see him just focus on art again. I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. Drew, we'll go to your number one. Good pick as well. Ron Lim.
Ooh.
Not only has this guy been doing a variant for like every Marvel book that's come out for like the last 37 years in a row, but that's kind of an exaggeration. But he also did like every Silver Surfer cover for Volume 2, which are some of the greatest covers of the 90s into 2000s. Just consistent, great covers. Thanos, Silver Surfer, Firestar, Blastar, all these fantastic cosmic characters. He did great variant covers for the Absolute Carnage run that just happened. Every Thanos book that ever comes out, he does a cover for. This guy is prolific, to be sure. And one of the better artists from the last decade, that's the last 2 decades, that's still doing it on a regular basis. You're still getting a Ron Lim cover just about every new comic book day.
Yeah. No, I like me some Ron Lim for sure, especially like his Thanos stuff. Anything that's like has to do with space and Silver Surfer. Some of my favorite Ron Lim. So, Andy, any final thoughts on Ron Lim before we move on?
No, you guys said it best, to be honest.
All right. So before we sign off and kind of go into final plugs and all that good stuff here, I want to get back into the chat and see who's joined us. We have Big Ben 70. How you doing, Big Ben? He says Jim Lee is making hella money on eBay right now.
It's actually Pink Foundation's making all that money, not Jim Lee.
I was
all for charity.
He's making some nice charity money right now, Jim Lee is. So definitely go to Jim Lee's Instagram handle.
$11,000 on the Batman Who Laughs sketch.
Wow.
I mean, I sure hope that they're going to keep that because you're not going to get resale value on that thing.
Yeah. We got K-Dog in the chase. Says Sam Keith Batman. Yeah, that's a good
K-Dog. He's bowdy, rowdy.
Absolutely. Backseat driver likes some Alex Ross. Scott Evans does not like Alex Ross. And we've had Downright Nerdy Podcast chatting in the chat. I think they were talking about Chuck Norris versus John Wick earlier. I was going to go Chuck Norris, man. Like that guy, like you're not going to beat Chuck Norris unless you're freaking Bruce Lee.
Horace Gracie beat him in 30 seconds.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Walker.
Horace Gracie beat him
Ranger
before he was Walker, Texas Ranger when he was at the top of his game.
The eyes of a Ranger, Drew. the unsuspected stranger.
Oh God, you get out of my head.
Chris Barrett's in the chat and he's grounded. Don't highlight that. Don't you dare.
Oh, here. Okay.
Don't.
He said poor man's George Perez. Okay, we'll move on.
Boy,
George Perez is a poor man's Ron Lim. We all know it.
Anyway, we're gonna get into. I had a frog in my throat there. We got some final plugs to go into because I was sitting around today and we were trying to plan out the future of modern men, and I came up with we're booked until week 30 basically. So we're gonna go down the line here via some thumbnails I made today. So
long-term booking, folks.
Yeah, of course we had episode 27 tonight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But week 28, we moved it back 2 weeks because of what's coming up. So week 28. We were going to read Dark Knight Returns week 30. It's coming next week. So next week, we are doing Modern Men episode 28, The Dark Knight Returns. So unfortunately, we're going to forgo any picks for next week this week because Dark Knight Returns will be our pick. It definitely deserves its own episode and focus. It's one of the main reads that kind of established the era we're in now, not only with Batman, but just the modern era of storytelling. So some people might say, that's Bronze Age or Copper Age. In my opinion, it helped set up the modern age. So I think we have to pay it a visit. So we're kind of going to go into the history of Batman, how this completely changed everything there was about Batman and the repercussions of this story on the comic industry. But also, it's not only going to be Dark Knight Returns. You guys I know Chris Bear, if you're out there, you're going to want to listen to this. It's also going to be Randomizer Returns week. So at the end of this episode, it's going to be the Randomizer returning to pick our week 29 read. But there's a catch. So you guys can put in your picks in the chat, and we'll put them in the Randomizer. But if Chris Barrett's out there and he wants Marvels to win for sure, you can donate $20 to the Hero Initiative via the Super Chat system, and I will enter your read in the randomizer 20 times. If you do $1 extra, I'll put in 1 extra pick for you. $5 extra, 5 extra picks. If you want Silver Surfer to win, Dance on Silver Surfer, and you really want it to win, you can donate $400 Super Chat, and I'll put it in 400 times. I'll double count it if I have to. So I want to make some money for the Hero Initiative, and I want to have some fun with the randomizer, so I figured why not combine the two, see what happens. If we get no Super Chats for the Hero Initiative, it is what it is. We'll have some fun with the randomizer, but
Big Will doesn't show up for $50, then we will put V for Vendetta out to pasture, and we will never, ever read it.
Dang. So if you guys are hardcore V for Vendetta fans, now's your chance to get some retribution and maybe try to get it on week 29.
Oh, you're going to have fun typing that.
And I am banning the three of us plus JB from putting any picks in the randomizer. It's going to be completely up to the fans of the show up live.
Yep.
That also being said, obviously DruManchu is having a contest that requires a poll. So after this show uploads tonight, we're going to put up a poll of some sort. This poll is going to contain the topics for week 29. So next week, you get to pick not the read for 28, but you're going to pick the topic for week 29 in the poll coming up. So we're going to let it run all 7 days, and we'll announce the winner of the poll next week on Modern Men episode 28. So big episode coming up. But like I said, we got 28 planned. 29 is going to be pretty much all fan booked from the topic to the read. We're going to have who knows what's going to happen on that show. I certainly don't.
Carson, I've got an idea.
Yes.
Anybody that super chats for more votes in the randomizer, whether it be $1 or $5 or $3,780, will get 10 entries.
Wow.
I will giveaway contest. All you gotta do is give $1, you get 10 entries.
Oh my.
Scott Evans asked if Chris Burns puts Marvels in, can I pay to have it removed? We'll
yes.
have to evaluate.
You would need to double the cost of his
That's
super chat,
what I was gonna suggest.
and we will have it removed.
Oh my.
So
yes.
if he pays 5 and you pay 10, we will revise that rule probably, but fun to think about. But the whole reason we moved all this, so episode 30 was originally going to happen on a certain date that's important to some nerds. So episode 30, I was going to do Dark Knight Returns on May the 4th. What else happens on May the 4th, guys?
Star Wars Day,
That's
baby.
right. Star Wars Day. So May the 4th, episode 30 will now be dedicated to Star Wars.
Hell yeah.
So we, instead of moving Dark Knight up, we moved it back to make room for Star Wars. So we're going to talk about everything Star Wars. And that means week 29, we're going to have a poll up. And that poll is going to have 5 Star Wars comics. We will review one of those that wins that poll. Plus, after that, the topic of the night, of course, Star Wars. We're going to talk about all the Star Wars comics from Dark Horse or Marvel. Maybe we'll start with the Marvel. Why not? We're going to talk Marvel to Dark Horse, back to Marvel, and we'll have fun talking Star Wars. So, Andy, what do you think of that whole docket coming up?
I think you just melted my brain. I hope somebody picks favorite Girl Scout cookies for our next poll.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about. We'll have to get JB on that one. I know he likes selling Girl Scout cookies. Drew, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Modern Men in the coming months, guys. This is going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. We're going to talk Batmans. We're going to talk lightsabers. We're going to talk super chats to get votes. It's going to be great, man. The randomizer is coming back in a big way.
Drew, I got to cut you off. Downright Nerdy Podcast. It's him. It's DNP. Came in with the $10 super chat saying, thanks for all you guys do. Now, thank you, Downright Nerdy. That $10 will be going to the Hero Initiative. So big thanks to Downright Nerdy Podcast. Definitely sub him up. Big, huge thanks for the $10. That is awesome, sir. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of plans coming up. And on top of that, April 25th and 26th, I had it like in the corner over there at the end the whole time. We got Mainframe Comic Con coming up on the 25th and the 26th. So definitely go to mainframecomiccon.com. Fish Tropic, man, that guy uses moderator wrench to put the link in the chat. It is also down below, but I also got to cut myself off because we got Maz Electra also with the $10 super chat. Big thanks, Maz Electra. Absolutely awesome. He says, for the heroes, $10 more are going to the Hero Initiative. So once again, big, huge thanks for the $10 super chat. Everyone definitely also sub up Maz Electra. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, you know what? Comic-Con coming up. Andy, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, you know what? These super chats don't go unnoticed, guys. I was talking to Chad earlier tonight before the guys showed up, and he received a message from the Heroes Initiative saying thank you. They see these. They notice them. They don't go unnoticed. It's not just you guys doing the super chats and us shouting them out. The Heroes Initiative sees that. The comic creators see that. The people in need see that. So it's amazing stuff, and it does not go unnoticed.
We also got Yasir over on the Facebook side. Says, don't know where I am, but I like this. Yeah, thanks for finding us, Yasir. That's awesome.
Yasir, you can always sub us up on the YouTube side of things as well. That is youtube.com/Comicore. And you can follow us on the Facebook. We're on Twitch as well. We always got something different coming at you 5 days a week now. We get daily content during the day and chat shows at night. Keep your eyes peeled, man. If you like what you see here, you're going to like what you see everywhere, brother.
Yeah, Drew, anywhere else they can find you on the internet or any plugs you want to throw out tonight?
Oh, geez. I will see you guys tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Comic Core Daily. I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about, but it's the Tuesday. So on the Tuesdays, we get a Drew's Haikus reviews. So I'll be doing a haiku about The Watchmen tomorrow. Tune in for that. And a question of the day, which will give you a chance to win some free comics. Free comics, people. Come and see me during the day. I can't wait till the 27th on that Monday when I go live at 1:15. Everybody sees that my eyes are sunken in and I have no life force left because I've been broadcasting for 48 straight goddamn hours with Mainframe Comic Con.
Yeah, Drew, you have become the Sultan of segments today.
Segments, baby!
Yes.
Andy, anything you want to plug? Where can people find Comic Man Andy on the internet?
Man, you guys can find me here Monday nights with the Comic Core on Modern Men, my most favorite show every week because I'm learning something new every week. But, you know, you guys can also, surprisingly now, find me every Thursday here on the Comic Core for Andy Given Thursdays.
We gave him a show, folks. We gave him a show.
Yep. So Thursday night, we've got a really good topic and a really cool panel of people that'll be on 10 p.m. We'll go for an hour, maybe a lot longer. I'm running the show, so it's live until I end it. We'll see what happens. You guys can find me on the Piggies Out podcast as well. Check out that link below and check out my own channel where I do some CGC unboxings and just kind of fart around and hang out with a lot of friends.
Awesome. I think Fish Tropic has found all of the links down below for sure. He also says, need a shirt, go to trepublic.com, user Comicore. Yeah, if you want one of these nice newsstand shirts or the Modern Men shirt that Andy is fashioning tonight, definitely go to tpublic.com/user/Comicore. If you want some of these fun, goofy shirts we like to wear all the time. So definitely visit that website if you guys want some of these shirts. But you can find me here on the Comicore every Monday, Modern Men, 10 p.m. Eastern. Definitely one of the most fun highlights of my week. Like I said, I have a podcast coming soon with my friend Mike. It's called Comics of the Atom. Episode 1 is going to be covering Astonishing X-Men. So
we're going to put that thing on the core.
Maybe if I can convince him to. We'll see.
Just tell him to get me the audio. I'll splice some images over top of it and make you guys look like idiots.
But do that every Monday, though, here on Modern Men.
It's true.
But yeah, look out for that podcast. Tomorrow's Tuesday, so that means there will be a Tuesday night live stream on my channel. I am not the sultan of topics or whatever. I just called Drew, so I don't have a topic yet, but I'll figure out something tomorrow because I spent most of my day.
Don't worry, I don't have a topic for the Daily Show tomorrow either.
Awesome. So tune in tomorrow.
I'll wake up at like 6 a.m. I'll take a poop and we'll figure it out.
All right, and then Michelle Shed, toast bacon. Because what's wrong with bacon? Absolutely nothing.
Yes.
It's the only meat that's also a condiment.
I don't know. Just ask your dog behind you there. He's got something going on.
He's just licking his balls, probably.
By the way, Drew, Mike says we'll do fine on our own. So there's your answer, buddy. There you go. Thanks, Mike.
Can't wait to hear it, Mike.
But yeah, stay tuned for that podcast. But like I said, go to mainframecomiccon.com, heroinitiative.org, and then check out heroinitiative.org/merchandise so you can get FaceTime with some of those creators you guys have sat there and always idolized and all that fun stuff. Can't wait to see what else Hero Initiative will add. But until I don't have JB here to sign us out, so I guess we'll have to do the old